Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Nicole and Azan. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda, and I'm a therapist, and I'm also a professor. As I always say, these videos should not be a replacement for therapy. If you need therapy, you should get a therapist because you really deserve that. Also, as I always say, everything I say when I'm reacting to these videos is total speculation. I could never diagnose these people unless I actually treated them.
This time is so different. Packing with May is so much harder.
You know, you think packing with May is hard? Spend 2 months with May.
Mom, I'm her mom.
All by yourself.
My whole family isn't happy that I'm taking May with me to Morocco, especially my mom. She's so worried that, something's gonna happen to us or to May. Just a lot of over-dramatic mom stuff.
So if this trip is as bad as the last trip, and you guys fight, and he doesn't take you anywhere, he doesn't take you out, are you going to be happy with that? Or are you finally going to say, enough's enough?
So I just want to point out again, as I keep pointing out this dynamic, that the mom's concern is fine. And again, you might have watched the entire season and know that this relationship is terrible. I don't know that yet because we have seen almost no data to know if this relationship is going to be good or not. That we've seen some concerning things thus far, but who knows? So there's nothing wrong with the mom having a concern, but the way she phrases this and the vibe she has as she communicates it, she is saying something very obvious. She's not communicating her own feelings. There's nothing wrong with the mom saying, I'm worried and I'm concerned and I'm losing sleep over what you're doing right now. That would be owning your own feelings. But that's not what the mom is doing. I don't think she's ever done that, at least on the show, what they've shown us. But what the mom is doing is, let's rewind it and pay very close attention to what she says here and evaluate whether or not you think this is something you say to a grown woman.
So if this trip is as bad as the last trip, and you guys fight, and he doesn't take you anywhere, he doesn't take you out, are you going to be happy with that? Or are you finally going to say, enough's enough?
The vibe from the mom to the adult child is, I think you're so dumb that I need to lay things out extremely simply just so you can evaluate things on your own. She's saying, if things go badly and it's a disaster, are you going to break up with him or are you going to continue with this disaster? Well, there's only one right way to answer that question, right? And any question that you ask someone along those lines is going to give the impression that you think the person is stupid. Now, in and of itself, that one statement from the mom, it's not disastrous, but it's the overall pattern that we've seen very little of. I have no way of knowing if it's an overall pattern, but the pattern that we've seen on the show anyway is a lot of messaging from mom to daughter that mom thinks that daughter doesn't know what she's doing, which doesn't help her self-esteem and might create a rebellion complex in the daughter that the mother wouldn't want anyway.
I told Azan that I would be more healthy when I went home and try to exercise. Didn't work out too much.
Nicole,
What?
don't forget, if you get over there and things don't go well, you get back on the plane and you come home.
Okay.
You have more than yourself to consider, right?
That's why I'm going back to make sure everything is okay before the visa is done.
So you hear the tone of the mother is talking down, and then Nicole starts to talk like a child. She starts to talk like a teenager. I know. And again, I always say I'm not mocking. What I'm saying is I'm demonstrating the tone because it should be fairly clear that Nicole is exhibiting a teenage persona, which they both participate in. Mom treats her like a kid, and she acts like a kid, which sucks the mom to treat her like a kid. They both participate in that dynamic. And if I was treating them, I would help them to both right the ship.
You get back on the plane and you come home.
Okay.
You have more than yourself to consider, right?
That's why I'm going back to make sure everything is okay before the visa is done.
That's probably the smartest thing I think I've ever heard you say.
Yikes. If you just take that sentence in and of itself, you're like, oh, compliment. But given the overall pattern, I think what the mom is saying is you say a lot of stupid things. And you just said something that's super obvious and is the smartest thing you've ever said. It's troubling. Now, some of you watching this might have a different take. And you're entitled to that. You might be like, well, I really think the mom's doing a great job. I'm not going to argue with that because I don't know. I would have to sit down with these people and really investigated. I've treated families like this for years and only developed halfway of a good hypothesis as to what's going on. So I don't know, but I will say that saying to someone, as you repeatedly give them messages that you don't think that they're very smart, and then they say something obvious and you think, that's the smartest thing you've ever said. It's not nice to say. I mean, at the very least, it's just not nice to say, right? But what I'm proposing is that it continues this dynamic of young child and dominant mother that isn't good for either one of them. It's not good for the mom because it puts a lot of responsibility on the mom to account for any mistakes that Nicole makes, and it makes Nicole feel like she is a child, and when you are treated like a child and you feel like a child, you act like a child.
Don't forget, if you get over there and things don't go well, you get back on the plane and you come home.
Okay.
You have more than yourself to consider, right?
That's why I'm going back to make sure everything is okay before the visa is done.
That's probably the smartest thing I think I've ever heard you say. It would have been smarter if you'd left me.
Oh my gosh.
I just wish you would have been more concerned about May's welfare.
Look, plane.
So I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but for Nicole, in her mind, she is concerned for May's welfare. Of course she is, because Nicole is a mother and she cares about her child. Instead of moving further down the road with Azan, without knowing, she is bringing May and saying, well, let's see how the three of us interact together, because that's a big part of my decision-making process as to whether or not I want to move forward with this relationship. So it's not like it's completely a stupid idea that Nicole is doing.
At the airport in Morocco. I'm leaving. Don't cry.
Not gonna be able to help it. I love you. I love you too.
So it's good to see warmth and closeness between the two. I suspected that they had those kinds of moments. They don't show a lot of that on the show, but there's obviously love between the two of them, which is great.
Hug.
I love you.
Say, I'll miss you.
I miss you. I miss you too.
Oh, Mama, don't cry. I still gotta make it with the stomach already turning. My mom is a big part of May's life. She really helps out a lot. She says that May's like her best friend because she's there so much. Bye-bye, Grandma. Come on.
We just heard a tiny little thing, which who knows what it means, but she said that the grandma considers her granddaughter May to be her best friend because she's around so much. So I don't know, that could just be a random thing that the grandmother says, but I have heard that in families where when you don't have other things in your life, you might depend on your children and your grandchildren to define who you are. And there's nothing wrong with having close relationships with your kids and your grandkids, but there is something self-destructive and self-denying to have no other relationships, no other closeness in your life, no other intimacy, no other attachment, security. And I wonder that about the mom. Obviously, it's just that one little statement. But it does play in, it would be consistent with the kinds of things we've seen from the mom with how much she concentrates on Nicole as well. That would be a worthy hypothesis to explore with her.
Say bye-bye. Bye,
Love
Mom.
you.
Come on. Kisses, blow kiss. I just got a bad feeling about this. I'm a little bit scared. Just waiting for our plane now.
In interviews away from each other, almost everyone on this show exhibits more differentiation. For the mom to be in that little snippet we just saw where she's crying, she's like, I'm just scared, I'm terrified. She is entitled to that feeling. She would be weird if she didn't at least have some anxiety. And given the scenario, it makes sense that she has tremendous anxiety. And instead of communicating that anxiety and transforming that primary emotion of fear into anger and control and bickering and putting someone down and giving a vibe that you think someone else is incompetent, why not just express that? Why not just cry and maybe she has off camera, I don't know. Why not just say to Nicole, I'm so scared right now, I don't know what to do. You're entitled to that feeling and have Nicole, and you're entitled to have Nicole hear you, and you're entitled to have Nicole take care of you, and it would be better. And often when I find in families, it's so much better. And this is a very Virginia Satir way of dealing with things. It's like when you are real and spontaneous, it gives the other person, you'd be surprised how quickly things can change. Like, just as a scenario, let's say the grandma takes on this whole other vibe of just like, every time she wants to control and she wants to put Nicole down, she just starts crying, and she's like, I'm so scared, I don't know what to do, and I'm so hurt that you're not listening to me, and I'm terrified of all these different things, and I don't know what to do. And instead of saying, because you're stupid, it's like she leaves that part out. She's just like, I'm so scared for you. I'm so scared for May. I'm worried you might get killed. I'm worried that you might get hurt. I'm worried that May might have her feelings hurt, or that May might get attached, and then that might be, and then that might be ripped away from her, and the chaos. I'm just so worried. I'm so worried about you being in another country. I don't know what the police system is like over there, or the healthcare system is like over there. I don't know Azan's family. I don't know anything. I'm so scared. Well, what could that do? Well, maybe for Nicole, she'd be like, oh, my mom doesn't think I'm stupid. That's not the primary issue here. She's just terrified. So my mom now is trusting me with her emotions. That makes me feel like I have self-esteem. My mom must actually approve of me. It's very, very important to understand that just because someone's an adult doesn't mean that they've moved on from the issues of their childhood. Just because someone is walking around with a job and children and, a suit and tie and a briefcase doesn't mean that they don't have complexes from their childhood. And when you create complexes in children, when they're children, they retain those into adulthood. And I think a big part of what Nicole needs to mature and to move forward and differentiate is to have some approval from the mother, have some indication that the mother believes in her daughter into making her own choices. So say the mother breaks down and Nicole's like, oh, I have a whole new vision of what mom is. And then when, say Nicole is navigating her life, she's like, well, I know my mom's really terrified and I'm kind of terrified. And the conflict and the talk down dynamic is not confusing the situation for Nicole. And so Nicole can think more clearly and maybe make better choices. I don't know. There's so many other possibilities, but that's just one.
It's hard watching her get on the plane and leave with my grandbaby and
May we get on?
So that's great. That's totally, it's wonderful that the grandmother can communicate and express those feelings. That's valuable. It's normal. As a therapist, I would really try to harness that, value that, validate it, help her express that within the family, have people take care of her for once. Given the way she's coming across, I wonder how many people have taken care of her. A lot of people who control and put other people down, they were parentified when they were children. They were made to grow up faster than they wanted to, and they developed a very responsible persona. And they hate irresponsibility in other people because they were forced by their parents to take care of their younger siblings or even take care of their parents. And they're just like, as a 13-year-old, they're just like, will you please just be responsible so that I can go back to being a 13-year-old? It kind of instills that notion. And it's a lot of sensitivity. You could almost call it like irresponsibility trauma from other people. And so when there's any hint of irresponsibility in other people, the person will pounce. They'll just be like, no, you cannot do that. And because that was the way that they were told to be when they were young. And it was the way that they got love and attention. For parentified children, the way that they get attachment, the way they get reinforcement and love is to be in control of other people and to bark and make demands. Well, then that just becomes a part of your way of loving other people. It's just like, well, when you love someone, you control and you bark at them and you tell them that what they're doing is stupid. And you break them down and you make sure that they do the right thing. You force them into a lane. You don't just let them do what they want to do. You got to force them. So the downside to that parentified role is that no one's taking care of you. When you break down, you have nowhere to go. And so you resent the heck out of everyone else because no one is taking care of you. And when you have to take care of other people, you resent that. You're just like, well, no one ever listened to my feelings, so why should I listen to anyone else's feelings? And you walk around with a sense of just like, no one loves me. No, why? And you equate love with obedience, because in order for the family to work well, it was just like, I needed people to obey me and then I could relax. And so younger sibling or even, parent of who is suffering from alcoholism, you could really make me feel loved if you do what I'm telling you to do, because then I can actually go back to being a 10-year-old. And so some of these people will actually equate obedience with love. And so they're always trying to get to that place. But of course, no one wants to be controlled in that way, and it causes all these problems. And so the person never really feels quite right about things. The person in the parentified position never feels like they're getting the love that they deserve. And so I wonder if the grandma is suffering from that.
Plane, you ready?
I feel like a big chunk of my heart just left.
Yeah. As I've been saying from the beginning, I suspect the mom has tremendous fear and sadness underneath all those other behaviors, and we're finally seeing it, which makes total sense to me, and I'm glad that she's able to get that out.
Hi, how are you? Do you know me?
It's Daddy.
Yeah.
May, who's that?
It's Daddy.
I love you, Ray.
She recognized who he was. She said, "Oh, that's Daddy." May's biological dad isn't really in her life, so I just want someone who will be there for her, who really will take care of her. I think I picked well to be May's dad.
Okay, yeah, so let's go.
So I don't know if this is the case for Nicole, but I've certainly seen this clinically in that as a single parent, particularly if the other parent isn't involved at all, you will often feel, rightfully so, this desire to have another parent to help you and also to bond with your child so that your child has two parents that they can bond to. And sometimes that desire will override one's ability to evaluate whether or not that relationship with that other person is good enough to pursue in the rapid pace that you're moving at. I don't know if that's the case for Nicole, but that is a possibility as to what's happening right now. Who knows?
The K-1 visa is a huge decision. So if Azan isn't the man that I think he is to be a father to May, then this is the time to find out.
May.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.